Welcome to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Chris Arnold. As always, you know that we are excited that you are with us today. For those in the tribe, one of the things that you guys know about me is I have the type of mindset that I like to find marketing channels that are not saturated. I'm the type of person that is always looking kind of for the outlier channel, the channel that, somebody's utilizing that a lot of people have overlooked. We know this happened with radio. That was a marketing channel that, everybody knew about, but nobody was utilizing. I also saw that there was really a large untapped potential for television. And so I brought on Tony Javier a few times for you guys just to be introduced to the ability to use mass media. And of course, if you've been listening, we brought on several students and the success that they've seen off of television and radio. So today I've got another channel for you. A buddy of mine that I've known for about 4 or 5 years, I've been talking with, I've really been following his story. And here's what you're going to get from this podcast. We are going to lay out for you a marketing channel that you're probably not familiar with. This channel's got a lot of benefits. We'll break some of those down, but one of the top benefits, which we'll get to a little later on, is the fact that it requires zero marketing costs. So that ought to catch your interest as well. And more importantly, it's a channel that is perfectly timed based on what's happening in the market right now, particularly with some of the stuff that's going on with the moratorium, with foreclosures and evictions and so forth. So there is a wave that's coming, and my buddy Paul Lizell has been working on a strategy for a long time. And I remember I called Paul, I don't know what that was, maybe 6 months, a year ago. And I said, Paul, you got to be getting excited because this channel that you've built, you're about to hit kind of a peak wave with everything that's happening via COVID and so forth. And you said, man, I'm more excited about this channel than ever because I've been doing a lot of deals with this channel, but we've not really maximized it because the overall circumstance and economy hasn't been at its full potential to be able to do that. And so that's what we're going to present to you guys today. So first of all, Paul Lizell, what's up, buddy? Welcome to the show, man. Glad to have you.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me, man. I'm really excited to be on.
Yeah. Now, Paul Lizell, if some of you guys recognize that name, Paul's been around forever. I've known him for a long time. But Paul, let's start with just a little bit of background, kind of give you some credibility, like where are you located, how long you've been in the game, just a little bit about your business setup. So those in the tribe that are listening can kind of get a sense of who this guy Paul is.
Sure. So I started investing in real estate a long time ago. Believe it or not, I'm in my 20th year here. So I started buying in December of 2001. It was the first property I bought was a HUD property. And I partnered with a guy. We picked it up for $29,500. We put $4,000 in it. We sold it for $69,000 a few months later. And this is while I was working full time for the bank. So I wanted to continue this, obviously, right? And then grow it into a fix and flip business. At that point, that's what I was looking at, fix and flip. And I was just doing bank own at that point, almost exclusively HUD properties. And this was before the days of auction.com, before Hubzu, Hudson Marshall, and these other avenues were available. There were still plenty available on Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and HUD as well. So started doing that, continued to do that part-time while I was working for the bank. And then finally in 2004, went off on my own, doing fix and flips, doing some wholesaling as well. And, I've continued to grow it ever since.
Yeah. And you're a veteran, man. I've been in the game for about 16 years, but I'm doing the math on that, man. You got me by about 4 years, man. So you've been in the game now for literally 2 decades at this point. So you have seen a lot and have done a lot of deals. One of the things I love about Paul, and I'm going to throw this question out here is how many states, Paul, have you done deals in so far?
So we have bought and sold in 44 out of 50 states.
Yeah. So I hear a lot of people talk about virtual wholesaling and doing deals in different markets. And anytime someone tells me that, Paul, you always pop in my head because I'm like, I don't know anyone that's more of a quintessential virtual wholesaler than Paul is when this guy's done literally 44 out of the states that exist. That is a lot of different states, bro, to be doing deals in. And one of the reasons that you've been able to do deals in that many states is the way in which you are going about finding deals and making this happen. So let's break this down. We are talking today particularly about your strategy of buying properties utilizing the auction. And I want to break down really kind of nuts and bolts of this. So my first question to you, Paul, is like, how did you stumble across this? Because there's not a lot of people right now that are buying properties via online auctions. Now, there might be people, back in the day that were going down to like the local auction. I hear some talk about where you would literally show up physically down at the courthouse, but we're talking about actually purchasing from home your computer, utilizing and buying properties online auction. So how did this journey begin for you?
That's an interesting story there too. Absolutely. And one of the things I love about this is that I can wander down from my bedroom, grab my coffee, go into my office and just start bidding on properties, right? It didn't really start out that way because auction.com didn't really come about until like around 2004 timeframe. And I started buying a little bit from them. And I was mostly buying, like most investors, locally, right? So I was within a couple hours of my house here, 2 hours or about 45 minutes north of Philadelphia. So I was buying in that market. Then I started buying properties, expanding out further and further, going to Pittsburgh, going to Ohio, going to Indiana, New Jersey, Delaware. Before you know it, I'm blanketing North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, and 44 states later, that's where I am right now. But no, this method, I just kind of stumbled onto it, and I stumbled onto the whole virtual wholesaling aspect of it. And most investors just have that mindset that they're going to farm their backyard. And my mindset was always I like visiting different parts of the country and seeing different places. So for me, this was almost an excuse to see different places if I did choose to go and look at the properties, which I rarely ever do. But I have gone and visited other markets like Tucson, Arizona, like Casper, Wyoming, obviously different places in Texas. I've bought a lot in Texas over the years, and the Carolinas. So it's kind of a lifestyle thing for me too. But it was something like I said, I kind of stumbled upon.
Yeah. Now it's interesting when I hear a lot of people talk about wanting to be a virtual wholesaler and do deals in, a city or a state that they don't live in. A lot of the stuff that pops up are things like direct mail or text blasting or RVMing. But I'm telling you, I don't hear anyone for the most part talk about creating a virtual strategy in which you are buying properties via online auction. So one of the things that I find impressive about what you're doing is the fact that there's not a lot of people that I know, Paul, that are utilizing auctions to pick up deals. I mean, there's a lot of people doing ringless voicemail, text blasting, stuff like that. But my question is, how many people do you know of like the circles that we run in that are utilizing online auctions to be able to pick up properties to wholesale, fix and flip, build their rental portfolio?
Very, very few. So when you speak to most people who say they're virtual wholesalers, they're usually in two different markets. Every once in a while, you get somebody that's in three markets. Occasionally, somebody will use the online auctions to add some inventory in those markets. But for the most part, they concentrate, whether it's a text blast, pay per click, or whether it's direct mail. So in speaking to Zome and Hudson and Marshall, speaking to the people that run it, they say there's only two big players in the market doing what I'm doing. It's myself and then another guy and his son in California. The rest of them are just picking and choosing different markets here or there. So for me, it's just like using I want the whole country to be my farm, right? I want to farm the whole country to be able to get properties anywhere because there's buyers in every single market. So why just constrict it to 2 or 3 different markets when I can have it open to the whole country?
Yeah. So here's my question. How did this get overlooked? A lot of people ask me that about radio. They're like, radio's been around forever. Why is nobody utilizing radio? I always said, well, there's 2 primary reasons. Number one, people obviously believe that it wasn't affordable. They thought that they were going to have a budget of like $10K to get started. And then the second thing is they really didn't understand who their avatar was. they kind of confuse themselves as their avatar and they go, well, hey, I stream music via Spotify. So why in the world would I advertise on radio? But I always have to remind people that our primary demographic is over the age of 45 and they don't stream music. They're actually still getting in the car, Paul, and they're turning on the radio. So my first question to you is, how's this been overlooked? Why is it that there's only a few people in the country right now that see this play? Like, how did this happen?
I think a lot of people tend to just follow the crowd, follow what's in, right? Text blasting got real hot a couple of years ago. Pay-per-click has been on and off, but it's a real hot topic right now. Direct mail has always been in there, and some people pull out of it. I think people have that herd mentality where they follow everything else, and that's why I like what you're doing so much, Chris, because the radio, the television, this is stuff that people just aren't thinking of. And when you think about this, think about, I hate to go to a tragic story, but remember that nightclub, I think it was in Connecticut, that burned probably about 2011 or 10, somewhere in that time frame.
Yeah.
Where the fireworks and everything. Everybody that heard was going out these certain exits. If they had just turned around and gone backwards, almost all of them would have lived because there was other exits the other way where people were fearful of, right? If you yell fire in a movie theater, everybody's going to go out those certain exit doors there. But if you go out the other way, you're probably better off. If you don't follow the crowd, if you go away from the crowd, more often than not, you're going to be the successful one. That's been my motto.
No, I agree. There's an old quote that says, whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect.
Yes.
Because usually what you find is that the majority is wrong. And that's simply because people are fundamentally just kind of following and duplicating each other. So let's break this down, right? Some people are listening going, okay, Paul, you've got my attention here a little bit. I'm always interested in a channel that has virtually no competition. I want to understand how this works, right? So, Paul, you get out of bed in the morning, and can you kind of break down the nuts and bolts of what this strategy looks like from the standpoint of actually executing on it? So, like, walk us through how in the world you are doing deals via online auction.
Perfect. So, for example, we'll be using Xome.com, XOME.com. They'll have upcoming auctions, and they'll have, say, 12 or 15 different upcoming auctions. They'll have like the Southwest, Southeast, Northeast, Northwest, and they'll break it down to those categories. So what I end up doing is taking those upcoming auctions, send them to my VA, have her scrub, VA being a virtual assistant from the Philippines. She will look at the properties and comp them for me. And we've trained her on how to do this, come up with repair numbers, so on and so forth. So let's say there's an auction coming up and there's 200 properties available in that auction. What she sends me back on that Excel spreadsheet I might be able to whittle it down to about 25 different properties. And then from those 25 different properties, if I do my level of due diligence, I might be able to whittle it down to 5 or 10. So that way I'm only bidding on 5 or 10 of the best deals here. And the other ones they're just not deals, right? They're properties I'm probably not going to do anything with.
Okay, so let me break that down first. So an auction happens. There's going to be a lot of properties that are on there, 100, 200 properties. You're paying a VA, right, which is not going to cost you a lot. You've trained them to get in and kind of be that first layer of pre-qualification. Yes. So they're going to narrow down that list to maybe the top 20. And then from there, you're going to take that top 20 and you're going to do an even deeper level of due diligence. And out of the 100 to 200 properties, you're going to know the 5 that you want to go ahead and begin to bid on.
Yep. That's the nuts and bolts of it.
All right. So what happens after that? Now you've got your eye on 5 properties. You want to bid on those. What happens next?
So let's say the auction runs Monday through Thursday. Usually, and I've tried different tactics on this, but the best tactic for me so far has been to bid on it early and let it ride, and then come back in at the very end and see what's going on, right? Am I bidding against the auction company who will bid on behalf of the seller, or am I bidding against other investors out there who are actively bidding as well? And it's become pretty easy for me to decipher between the auction company doing it and another investor. And there's tactics we teach on how to decipher that, but it's actually become pretty easy to figure that out. So you don't want to bet against yourself. If you're doing that and you're up in your bid because the auction company is trying to do it, then you're just bidding against yourself in essence. So
Okay.
Monday I'll start, Thursday I'll hop back in. The auction ends at 2 o'clock. So I'm bidding there last 5 minutes. I have my maximum allowable offer, my MAO that I've come up with, and I'm making sure that I'm under that. I do not want to bid even, I don't want to even be at my MAO because I just want to have a bigger margin when if the bank accepts the offer, I want to have a bigger margin, be able to wholesale this property.
Okay. And so what are the numbers here of the properties that you actually bid on, right? That you've narrowed down? What's the ratio for how many you bid on to actually how many you win?
So if you use 100 and say I'm actively bidding on 100, I can actively get 5 to 10 of those per month. Five to
Wow.
10 of those. Yeah. So, and
And is
there's a
that
lot of
about
them
how
are
many
total.
deals you're picking up a month? I mean, you're doing 5 to 10 deals a month off of these auction sites. Is that about right?
That's right. That's absolutely right. Because we
Wow.
do,
I mean, that's solid.
yeah. Yeah, we do quite a bit. We do between 60 and we've done as many as 135 deals in a year. And 60 to 80 is like the perfect amount where you can manage it and really increase your profits. I found that when I was going to 135, 130, 135, that I was spread so thin that my margins dropped. So I decided, you know what, I want to work smarter, not harder. Why don't I just pick the best of these, let the other ones go, pick the best of them and increase my profit. So I increased my profit spread in 1 year from 7,800 to almost 13,000.
Okay. So the average profit per deal that you're making right now on this is about 13 grand.
About
Is that
13,
right?
just under 13. Yeah.
13 grand.
Mhm.
And this is a channel that you found the sweet spot is able to produce you roughly around, would you say that range is about 50 to 70 properties a year? Is that
Correct.
kind of the
Yep.
sweet spot?
That's the sweet
Okay.
spot.
I mean, you've got a channel that's consistently pumping out 50 to 70 deals a year and giving you an average profit of 13 grand. I mean, that's awesome on top of that. Now, here's my question. From time spent right? There's always what we call kind of your cost of labor, your time. How much time does it take you to run this marketing channel versus some of the other marketing channels, like cold calling and stuff like that, that require a lot of man hours?
That is a lot. So when I used to do some of the direct mail and even a PPC there for a little while, you're spending, easy 40, 60, 80 hours a week working your butt off on that, managing all those different things. Where here I can spend 5, 10 hours, sometimes less, and still pick up the same amount of properties people are doing, using direct mail, using the pay-per-click and using text blasting or using cold calling for that matter. And without the headaches so we don't have, we try to target vacant properties that are on lockbox. Whereas, if I'm buying from Joe Schmo down the road from me here, I've got to now take investors through it and I got to tell him, got different people coming at different times. And that's, it's a whole logistical thing you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about it at all using this auction method.
Wow. So a total of somewhere around 5 to 10 hours a week is what you're investing into this overall channel that's producing 50 to 70 properties for you per year with an average profit of about 13,000. Now, how many years have you been running at that level in the sense of it producing that type of volume for you? Like, how long have you been doing this for?
Since 2011, I've been doing that. 2011, where I've been utilizing all the different auctions out there. And I brought in, this is point, I was getting actually overworked because I was doing the acquisition and the disposition side. So in 2014, I brought somebody in who would be my disposition guy for me. And he was a godsend. And I pay him, on the backside there for the sales. And that's something you might want to think about as you grow and do more with this business. When you're doing, a couple deals a month, it's not a big deal. But as you get to, 5, 10, 15 deals a month, you want to have that person who's going to sell for you so you can concentrate on the acquisition side.
Wow. So this is a channel, Paul, you're telling me that you've actually been able to rely on consistently now for just about a decade.
Yes.
Like this has been driving your wholesale business. Now, outside of this, are there any other traditional channels that you're doing like direct mail or cold calling, or you looked at everything else and go, man, I don't need to, like I've built my business off of this whole concept of being able to buy properties via online auctions?
2013, I cut off the direct mail, totally stopped cold turkey with that. It was the best thing I ever did because just buying all over the country, even now during COVID, where they have the foreclosures, they're in a moratorium. You can't foreclose right now on certain properties. I'm still picking up plenty of deals. Plenty of deals. For example, I just picked up one in Charleston, Tennessee for 132.5. We listed it. We have a buyer for 165, and it took about 5 days to sell that one. So there's always deals out there. Most people don't know where Charleston, Tennessee was, and honestly, I didn't know where it was either. But there's plenty of deals out there. We're actively buying on an auction, but we're also buying off the MLS, and we're also buying from wholesalers. While the market is, a little slower than normal, and the auctions don't have the inventory that they normally have, we've picked it up using other methods, and we teach people how to use those other methods as well.
Okay. So one of the questions I asked you, and again, I always like to talk about radio from the standpoint of, there's a handful of things that I really value about radio. The fact that it's set it and forget it, or the fact that, it produces celebrity status, right? Or instant credibility. Let's go through really kind of the top 5 benefits that you found that you value most about this particular marketing channel for yourself. The first one you said is that there's zero marketing cost. Break that. What do you mean that there's zero marketing cost?
It's my favorite thing, right? So you pay nothing. Your only cost is your labor that you're willing to put in here. So instead of when I normally would spend 6, 8, 10 grand a month on direct mail, now I've got none of that. So what that has done is the barrier of entry for somebody needing money to get started and hopefully 90 days later get their first deal, within the first 90 days or so, we cut that off. For instance, one of our students, Trey, talked to him and he was super motivated, right? And so I knew this guy was going to hit the ground running. Jumped in 3 deals in the first month, 3 deals. He spent no money in marketing, wholesaled them all, made good money, and he's still doing the same thing today. So that's my favorite aspect. You're spending nothing.
And that pretty big benefit, particularly if I'm living right now and I'm newer to the real estate game and I don't have a large marketing budget. I could come in and start buying properties via online auction with zero cost in the sense of a marketing budget. That's a pretty big draw.
To me, it is.
Radio doesn't even have that. Radio, you got to spend a couple grand on. So I'm going to give you props on that one. The second one you said was the fact that this can really be done by like a solopreneur. Like you don't need a big team to run this particular marketing channel. Talk a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So for years, I did that as a solopreneur. It was just me on the acquisition side, myself on the marketing side to resell it. It was just all my labor. So in other words, I could start and stop whenever I wanted. If I wanted to go on vacation, when I was doing direct mail, that was a problem because I still had to answer the phone or have somebody answer the phone for me. If I want to go on vacation from online auctions, I just don't bid on the properties during that time. So I could shut it on or turn it on and shut it off at any point I want, which I really love. And you don't have to have big teams. You don't want to have, I talk to so many guys in mastermind meetings. They have all these big teams, acquisition managers, multiple of them, disposition managers, multiple of them, and then people that handle the A to B files, the B to C files. Next thing you know, you have a 10-man team. And when the market turns, you have to worry about either laying all these people off, getting rid of them and shrinking everything. Well, with us, you don't have to worry about doing that. Now, we have a VA that we use. We actually use 2 to do 2 different functions. Anytime we want to shut it down, we just get rid of the VA, which is pretty easy, and we can turn it back on whenever we need to.
That's awesome. So this is something that doesn't require a big team. And particularly if I'm listening and I'm a solopreneur, this is something that I can actually self and not be overwhelmed. And as you said, you already quantified for us the fact that you're spending about 5 to 10 hours a week on this particular channel, which is great. The third thing you talked about was the fact that this can be done as a side hustle, but this can also kind of be scaled and done full time as well. So break that down a little bit by what you mean by that there's diversity from a side hustle part-time to being able to do this full-time.
And I'm the perfect example of this. So I started this business doing this part-time in 2001. I was doing multiple fix and flips per year, doing an occasional wholesale deal per year. And my objective was, I told my wife this, and this was what got, in 2004, I was able to go full-time. I wanted to have 18 months worth of income, be able to pay the bills and live set aside before I would go off on my own. That was my deal I made with my wife and myself. And as soon as I had that, and that was at the end, it was around November of 2004 that I quit my full-time job and went into doing this or part-time. Yeah, my full-time job, and went from doing this part-time to full-time. And I've done that ever since. And I've used this method ever since. And again, I did direct mail and I did some PPC stuff. I always found more deals through the bank-owned properties than I did through the direct mail. And yeah, sometimes those direct mail, you're going to get some pretty big margins on those, but I get some pretty big margins on mine too. And when you account for marketing costs, average cost per deal from when I'm talking to other people who do wholesale deals right now is almost $5,000 per deal, which means my average profit is $13,000. Theirs needs to be $18,000 or more to warrant what the method that they're utilizing compared to this method.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is if somebody's working a 9 to 5, they don't have a lot of additional time. Coming in and utilizing the online auction approach is something that works if someone is trying to work a 9 to 5, make sure they have time with their family while at the same time trying to build their business all at the same time. So you can do that as an actual side hustle itself. So
sure can. Yeah, you can make it like around your lifestyle. If your lifestyle is busy and you want to keep it and you just want this as a side gig to be able to fund your retirement, you could do that.
Yeah, I know that that's a big piece because I hear that, Paul, a lot with radio. You know, a lot of people pick up radio because they're like, I can't pick up a marketing channel that I feel like is going to create an entirely new job for me.
Yeah.
Like I have too much going on. Like, I'm married. I've got 3 kids under the age of 10. I'm working a 9 to 5. I coach little league. And on top of that, I just don't have the time to come in and do something as a channel that's just going to eat up a lot of my time. So I love the fact that for someone working a 9 to 5 that might be listening, they're going, hey, this is something that, I could actually incorporate into everything that I'm trying to balance in my life right now. Now, the other thing you told me that you really liked about this is the fact that you can turn it on and off at will. This is interesting because I actually haven't really heard a lot of people talk about this as a characteristic. So why don't we contrast this? What is a channel that you can't really turn off and on? And then what is it about buying online auctions that allows you like a light switch to be able to turn it on when you want to do deals and turn it off if you want to stop and go take a vacation?
Perfect. So pay per click is a great example. And it is probably one of the best methods right now of getting properties because you get motivated sellers. People are out there. But the problem is you've got to be on their beck and call. So if you get that lead and that comes to you, whether it's in a text message or an email, you've got to be on that in 5 minutes or less, or they've already moved on to somebody else. So we'll go to direct mail too. Same type of thing where if you're on vacation, I'll give you the example. I was in the Bahamas. This was like in 2006 when I was in the Bahamas with my wife. And I had to bring what I call my money phone, which was my separate cell phone, my business phone. Whenever it rang, I had to answer it no matter where I was, right? So international call. If a motivated lead came in, I had to answer it. My wife hated it. I hated it. I didn't want that. And that's why in 2013, I just cut everything and just stuck with doing the bank-owned properties because I want to be able to make it work in my lifestyle. And like you said earlier about coaching Little League, so I'm a travel baseball coach still. This is my 14th year. I'm coaching Junior Legion this year. We're in playoffs now. And typically this time of year, I cut my hours even more in work because I've got to do other things like prep the field, run practices, right? And then be there for all these different games. And we have games almost every single day right now that we're in the playoffs. So I can work this around my lifestyle. If I don't feel like bidding, I don't have to bid, right? Where I just bid on it, leave it. If I win it, great. If I don't, no big deal, right? And there's plenty of deals out there too for people thinking there's not enough deals out there. I am leaving so many deals on the table by not bidding on certain. But again, I'm going for what I term the low-lying fruit. So, but now you can say you can turn this on and off whenever you want, unlike other channels, which are very difficult.
Yeah. And, it's funny. I've done interviews with students and stuff like that talk about the fact that they dropped direct mail. It ended up hitting earlier than they thought they were, on their anniversary trip, or, maybe doing a little Vegas trip with the wife, and they're up in the hotel room actually doing deals. And so
Yes.
like you don't want to be doing that. And again, as an entrepreneur, like we get excited about that, but you have to remember the other side of our spouse going like, are you kidding me? Like we came out here to vacation and my husband's up in the room right now, like converting deals right now because he spent money on direct mail. So no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, which I think is really cool about this process, is you like the benefit that literally you're able to do deals in like every state. You're not locked into any particular geographical area.
No, and that's my favorite part, right? So because of that, I'm not if I'm your typical person who's in two markets, I'm very limited with the amount of inventory I could purchase, right? But for me being the whole country, I've got an unlimited supply. There's always going to be bank owned properties. There's always going to be properties available on auction there and on the MLS. So for me, it's huge. I just have a lot more opportunities out there. And this method provides that, whereas you don't get that with your direct mail because you can't be in every market at all the times, right? You just can't. It's not that simple, unfortunately.
Yeah. So let me recap those five, because I think those are some really interesting benefits to process if you're listening. Number one, there's zero marketing cost to be able to do this, because literally you're going online, you're bidding on online auctions, and that's not going to cost you anything. You just got to spend some time to do that. And as you said, it's not like it's a ton of time. You're doing 5 to 10 hours a week on that. Number two, you can do it as a solopreneur because it doesn't require a big team to manage it. Number three, you can do it as a side hustle, or you can scale it like you have, Paul, and you can do 50, 70 deals a year if you want. Number four, you can kind of turn it on and off at will, depending on what you have going on in your life. And number five, it's truly doing virtual, call it virtual wholesaling, virtual real estate, whatever. It's enabling you to do deals in literally just about every state that's out there. So I think those are some really strong benefits to consider when it comes to this particular marketing channel. Now, I want to transition to this last piece here, because we're in an interesting time, right? We've come out of COVID, or however you want to define that. We're on the other side of that. And we know that during COVID, there was a lot of things that were put in place as a safety net when it came to, not allowing foreclosures to happen. There were a lot of protection around tenants and evictions. I remember calling you saying that's going to change. And what is going to happen with this auction process when all of a sudden everything goes back to being normal and properties can be foreclosed on and tenants can be evicted? Like, what are you seeing with the timing of this? Because I would think out of everything right now, this is the thing that's probably exciting you the most, because you're probably about to kind of hit the pinnacle of what this channel can do just based on what's happening in the economy right now.
Absolutely, Chris. I'm licking my chops waiting for this opportunity here. And I hate to see things happen, bad things happen to people. And unfortunately, this pandemic did that. And there's going to be a lot of foreclosures coming on the market. There's going to be a flood of them coming in. And again, they'll try to do it in segments. They won't flood everything at one time, but there's going to be such an increase of inventory. And I'm already getting emails from Chase Bank trying to get me, because I'm a licensed agent in Pennsylvania, trying to get me to become an REO agent, which I will never do because those guys work their butts off. But they are expecting a huge glut of foreclosures coming on in Chase's end. Auction.com too, speaking of the hierarchy there, they're ready for a flood of inventory to be coming in. So all these places are getting prepared right now. They have slimmed down how much staff they have, but now they're starting to ramp back up, expecting a lot more to come in. So we're in an opportunity now where you want to learn these processes now. So when these foreclosures hit, you're ready to hit the ground rolling and really take advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, man, Paul, you know me, man. I get excited anytime somebody brings something along that's not a part of the herd, something that's kind of left field. And I'm watching you and just your business as I've known you over the last 4 to 5 years. And you're like me. I was kind of off in the corner doing radio all by myself, making great money off of that because there's virtually no competition. And I kind of see Paul like you're over in some other field all by yourself, doing this auction thing, and I've continued to ask you, like, why haven't people picked this up yet? But it's one of those channels, again, that's pretty much completely wide open. And my mindset always is this, if you can get in and have a monopoly, if you can get in and have a channel in which there's virtually no competition, you want to be on the front end of that, because that's what's going to increase the probability that whatever channel that you're working on is going to be successful. Going back to what I said at the top of the hour, I don't care how great of a marketer you are. If you're doing something like direct mail and there's 70 other postcards that are being put in somebody's mailbox, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how great your postcard is. It doesn't matter how strong you are at conversion. You're just getting lost in the oversaturation of what's happening. And so, Paul, I love the fact that, you're presenting to the tribe today, something to really consider, that I think a lot of people just have not really even taken a look at. Now, Paul, you offer a course on this. Obviously, this is your passion. Of course, you've been doing real estate for 20 years. So you're like me, a guy that's been doing this for so long, gets to a point where it's like, hey, it's cool to do this, but there's a point in which I find a lot of fulfillment and enjoyment in showing other people how to do this. So talk a little bit about the course that you have, because you're at a place right now where if somebody wants to learn how to come in and do online auctions, that's something that you're teaching. So talk just a little bit for a couple minutes about your course and what you're offering.
Absolutely. So we have a course, we've had it for a couple of years now. We've kind of grown organically. And what we teach, we have a bunch of videos online that teach you how to bid each of these different properties, and whether it's Zome, auction.com, Hudson and Marshall, Hubzu, the different processes that each of them have. We get you set up with accounts with each of them. We try to get you into the VIP program, which we can do, a VIP buyers program. We could do that with Zome. We could do that with Hudson and Marshall. So we have videos teaching you how to do that. We also have videos teaching you how to comp properties, right? How to use different tools out there like Realty Track, like Zillow, like Redfin in different markets. So, and we even teach how to work with VAs and how to train your VA to work for you so that you can work 5 to 10 hours a week like I do. Whereas before my VA, I was doing all those extra hours. So I was doing more like 30 to 40 hours per week. My VAs just saved me a ton of time. So we teach all those different things. We teach different disposition methods because in different parts of the country, different methods of marketing work. So in Texas, for instance, Facebook Marketplace is a great place to sell properties. Don't ask me why. It just is. And then places like North and South Carolina, where you have older populations and you have some mountainous regions in there where Wi-Fi is not great, selling a newspaper ads works great. So we've learned in different markets what has worked well on a resale side, and we learn what markets we make the most profits into. So we do concentrate on certain markets more so than others, but that's all the things they're going to learn in our course. They're going to learn, beyond that, above and beyond, we try to teach them entity creation. We bring in experts that talk about that, insurance, strategic tax planning, rentals, selling with owner financing, obviously the wholesaling and wholetailing, and we even get into fix and flips if they want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot.
Yeah, it's good. No, it's some really good material. So, I know how this works. It's whether it's radio or television or TTP or any of the other stuff that we want to provide to the tribe. I know there's some people listening right now going, man, this is what I was looking for. This is why I tune in to Wholesaling Inc. I'm always trying to kind of figure out what I want to do next. And so for some of you listening right now, you're like, you know what? This actually sounds like something that would be a great fit for what I'm doing. Because when you're listening, when you hear that marketing channel that just resonates with you, where you're like, man, there's something about this is just a good fit for me, because where I'm at in my life and the way that I'm trying to structure everything, I need a particular marketing channel that's going to work for me right now. And so for some of you listening, I know that that's going to be the case. So as always, I know you guys always ask with Wholesaling Inc., hey, give me a promo code, give me some type of discount. So that's always our responsibility to do that. So I was talking with Paul and I said, hey, what can we do for the tribe members? And you said, hey, I run my course, it's $7,000. But with a promo code, I'm willing to do which is a huge promo code of $1,500 off bringing that down to $5,500. So first of all, I want to thank you, Paul, for doing that, because that's a great savings for our tribe. So we love to be able to pass that on. So if you're interested and you want to check this out, and again, as always, we always just tell you, do your due diligence, make a call, ask the right question, see if it's a great fit for you. But it always begins by just kind of picking up the phone, asking some questions, and that particular link will get you the $1,500 off if you decide that this is going to be a great course for you. So wrapping up, Paul, as people are listening and kind of sizing this up, I know for some people, they're going to get off of this podcast and they're going to be, mind is turning like this is interesting. I hadn't heard about this. What do you want to wrap up with today for someone that might be thinking about this, might be on the fence a little bit? What do you want to leave the audience with today when it comes to this particular marketing channel?
Absolutely. So I think for me, I follow in life, the keep it simple, stupid method in everything, in every aspect I do in life. So I want to make everything as simple and easy as possible. And this marketing method by far is the most easy to do. It's the keep it simple, stupid method. You can set it and forget it. You can cut it off whenever you want to. You can start it whenever you want to. If you're too busy right now, you can stop bidding on property. You can have as much as you want. So this is just a simple method. And we teach you all kinds of different strategies as well with any here. But it's just a nice method to keep it simple. We teach you how to do the basic wholesaling all the way to the full scale fix and flip. So if it's something that works for you, we'd be happy to have you aboard. And Chris, we really appreciate the opportunity you having us on here.
No, and I can say this, as long as I know Paul, man, and with the people that I run with, Paul, dude, you're just a solid guy. One of those guys, every time I pick up the phone, you and I always have a great conversation. Sometimes we talk about business.
Yeah.
Sometimes we talk about life and what's going on with our family and so forth. So you're just one of those guys that really fits the overall culture of the tribe, because I know that regardless of whoever you work with, you take that really seriously, and you always want to make sure that you come in and provide the highest level of value you can for anyone that decides to work with you. So Paul, man, I appreciate you coming on, and to the rest of the tribe, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Hope that we shared something with you that got you maybe thinking in a different direction. And as always, we will catch you soon when we add more value. Talk to you later.